Most people think of their birthstone as nothing more than a pretty detail, a marketing gimmick, or a quaint tradition passed down for generations before. But what if the stone linked to your birth month isn't just a fashion choice? What if it's an ancient symbol, a key left for you by the collective unconscious, a part of you that Carl Jung believed is always searching for meaning beneath the surface? Throughout history, stones have been given as gifts, worn for protection, kept as talismans against misfortune. Why? Because every culture, across every continent, intuited the same truth. Some symbols speak a language the rational mind can't explain, but the soul instantly understands. Jung spent his entire life seeking out these symbols, archetypes, he called them, that shape the way we see ourselves and move through the world. He saw that the external always mirrors the internal. The stone you're drawn to isn't random. It's a reflection of energies you were born to work with, challenges you're meant to face, and gifts waiting to be claimed. If you learn to read these signs, you could discover parts of yourself you've forgotten or never dared to name. But let's move from theory to the real. Take garnet, the birthstone of January. Deep red, almost blood-like, glowing with a dark fire. Garnet is the stone of commitment, survival, and regeneration. It's no coincidence that it comes at the darkest time of the year, when life seems most fragile, yet the promise of renewal is just beneath the surface. Psychologically, garnet speaks to the archetype of the survivor, the part of you that endures even in the bleakest winter. People with this birthstone often carry a quiet strength, a refusal to surrender when others quit. Yet there's a shadow here too, the temptation to harden, to become guarded, to survive at any cost, even if it means shutting out warmth and vulnerability. If garnet is your stone, Jung would ask, how do you respond to adversity? Do you use pain as fuel for transformation, or do you let it close your heart? The lesson of garnet is not just to endure, but to regenerate, to allow old wounds to become the soil from which new life can grow. Commitment, after all, is not just to others, but to your own process of becoming whole. Now, turn to amethyst, the stone of February. Where garnet burns, amethyst soothes, a purple glow, cool as twilight, ancient as mystery. For thousands of years, amethyst has been called the stone of clarity, intuition, and spiritual awakening. In the Jungian map of the psyche, amethyst resonates with the mystic, the part of you drawn to what is invisible, the quiet voice that whispers beneath all noise. People born under this stone are often sensitive, intuitive, and seekers of deeper meaning. Their challenge, however, is to balance clarity with confusion, intuition with escapism. The shadow side of amethyst is the temptation to lose oneself in dreams or spiritual ideals, to escape reality when it gets too harsh. Jung believed that true spirituality isn't about rising above life, but about descending into your own depths and returning with wisdom. If amethyst is your stone, ask yourself, do you trust your intuition, or do you drown it out with doubt and distraction? Do you seek meaning, or do you use the search as a way to avoid the pain of the present? The lesson here is to embrace your gift for insight, but never at the expense of living fully in this world. What unites both garnet and amethyst, commitment and clarity, endurance and insight, is the call to look beneath the surface of things. Your birthstone isn't just an ornament. It's a signpost, a message from the part of you that knows the journey isn't about perfection, but about integrating every part of who you are, light and shadow, strength and softness, fire and peace. So as you hold your birthstone, or even picture in your mind, don't ask what luck it brings. Ask instead, what part of me does this stone awaken? What story is it calling me to remember? The answer, Jung would say, is not in the stone itself, but in what it stirs in the depths of your soul. As you let these ancient stones speak, you begin to notice how each one embodies not just a set of colors or traditions, but a living principle inside you, a fragment of the universal story echoing through your private life. The birthstone is never just about birth. It is about emergence, change, and the way you carry yourself through each new chapter of existence. Consider aquamarine, the gem of March. Pale blue, like glacier melt or the first thaw of spring, aquamarine is named for water itself. It is the stone of courage, clear communication, and emotional openness. In myth, sailors carried it for safe passage. In dreams, it is the color of calm seas and honest confession. But what does this mean psychologically? For Jung, water is the great symbol of the unconscious, the realm where emotions run deep and transformation always begins. Aquamarine invites you to swim, not skim, the surface of your own depths. People born under this stone often possess a gentle resilience. They seek harmony, but are not afraid to face inner storms. Their greatest strength is vulnerability, the willingness to speak the truth, even when it shakes the ground. The shadow here is avoidance, the temptation to pacify, to smooth things over, to keep the waters calm at any cost. If aquamarine is your stone, ask, do you use your voice to connect or to conceal? Do you share your fears or hide them behind a glassy surface? The lesson is to remember that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to wade in, even when the current runs cold. Next is diamond, the birthstone of April. Instantly recognizable, diamond is the hardest of all stones, pure, clear, refracting every color while remaining seemingly untouched. Historically, it has stood for invincibility, brilliance, and the search for perfection. But in the language of Jung, diamond is an image of the alchemist, the part of you that seeks transformation, clarity, and incorruptible truth. It represents your potential to withstand pressure, to emerge from darkness with new light, to take the chaos of raw experience and turn it into something unbreakable. For those drawn to diamond, the gift is focus, determination, and the relentless pursuit of authenticity. Yet the shadow is as sharp as the stone itself. The need for control, the fear of showing weakness, the belief that only the flawless are worthy of love or success. Jung would remind you that wholeness is not found in perfection, but in integration, owning your fractures as well as your facets. If diamond is your stone, ask, are you using your clarity to illuminate or to judge? Are you becoming so hard that nothing can touch you? The challenge is to let your light shine, but not at the cost of your softness. What do aquamarine and diamond have in common? Both embody the journey from fear to authenticity. One asks you to open, to risk feeling deeply. The other calls you to withstand, to refine your essence under pressure. They are two paths to the same summit, becoming someone who is not defined by circumstance, but by choice. As you consider these stones, water and light, courage and clarity, reflect on the way your own story has unfolded. When have you faced the unknown with an open heart? When have you mistaken hardness for strength or silence for peace? The stones themselves do not give answers. They prompt questions, stir memories, urge you to reconsider the map you've inherited. Each time you wear, touch, or even think of your birthstone, you're invited to practice a different way of being. Jung believed that symbols awaken what is dormant within us, giving us new scripts to live by. So hold aquamarine when your voice falters. Hold diamond when you're tempted to hide your flaws. In the end, these stones are reminders to trust the wisdom of your depths and to shine in the fullness of who you are, not in the image of who you think you should be. This is the deeper meaning of the birthstone, less an ornament, more a talisman. Not a promise of an easy life, but a call to honest living. The water may be cold, the fire may burn, but somewhere in the meeting of the two, your real self is forged. At some point in your journey with these stones, you realize you're not just collecting information. You're confronting the very essence of who you are. Each birthstone is less about fate and more about permission. Permission to own your deepest drives, your hardest lessons, your forgotten gifts. The more honestly you look, the more each stone reveals another layer of the self. For Jung, this is the point where symbols become medicine, each one offering not just comfort, but the courage to face what lies beneath the surface of your life. Let's begin with emerald, the birthstone of May. Its green is not the harsh glare of artificial light, but the living color of forests, of new growth, of spring after a long winter. Emerald has always been the stone of love, renewal, and healing. Ancient cultures prized it as a symbol of rebirth and immortality. Even today, it's associated with compassion and the heart. But for Jung, emerald would be the archetype of the healer, not just the doctor or the nurse, but the part of you that knows how to nurture, to forgive, and to begin again. If you're drawn to emerald, you may find that your life revolves around relationships, family, friends, lovers, even strangers. You feel most alive when you're caring for others, creating beauty, restoring harmony. But here, as always, is the shadow, the risk of losing yourself in the needs and wounds of those around you. The archetype of the healer can easily become the martyr, giving endlessly until nothing is left. Jung warned that all gifts, if not balanced, become burdens. The lesson of emerald is to remember that true healing always includes the self. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot restore the world if your own roots are withered. So, if emerald is your stone, ask yourself, do you give as easily to yourself as you do to others? Are you nurturing your own growth or only tending to everyone else's garden? The emerald reminds you that compassion is not a transaction. It is a living energy meant to flow both ways, outward and inward. The more you honor your own needs, the more powerful your gift to others becomes. Now, move to pearl, the birthstone of June. Unlike any other gem, the pearl is not mined from the earth, but born in the quiet darkness of the sea, shaped by patience, by irritation, by time. It is a product of adversity. An oyster, faced with a grain of sand, transforms discomfort into something luminous. For centuries, pearl has stood for wisdom gained through suffering, the soft strength that emerges from within. In Jungian psychology, pearl resonates with the archetype of the sage, the part of you that gathers insight not from books or teachers, but from living through your own hardships. Those who connect with pearl are often sensitive, observant, and attuned to the cycles of their own emotional life. They may feel like outsiders, more comfortable in silence than in noise, more drawn to reflection than to action. The gift here is emotional intelligence, the ability to see beauty in imperfection, to find value in what others discard. But the shadow is withdrawal, the temptation to hide behind gentleness, to avoid conflict, to let the world pass by rather than risk being hurt again. Jung believed that wisdom is forged in struggle. The oyster does not choose the grain of sand, but it does choose what to do with it. Pearl people are challenged to embrace discomfort, to let pain become a teacher rather than a wound. The risk is isolation becoming so protected that no one can reach you. The lesson is integration, to shine not in spite of your scars, but because of them. Consider how emerald and pearl work together in the psyche. Both are about healing, but in different ways. Emerald heals by connection, by reaching out, by renewing the bonds between people. Pearl heals by reflection, by going inward, by transforming suffering into wisdom. Together, they teach the value of balance between giving and receiving, between action and contemplation, between embracing the world and embracing your own heart. Perhaps you notice echoes of both stones in your own life, regardless of your birth month. That's because, as Jung wrote, archetypes are universal. Each of us carries the potential for every story, every lesson, every gift. Your birthstone is your starting point, but not your only path. You may need the courage of garnet one year, the serenity of amethyst the next, the growth of emerald, the wisdom of pearl. The stones are reminders of what you are capable of if you choose to answer their call. So, as you reflect on emerald and pearl, ask yourself, where do I find healing? Do I reach for others or retreat within? Do I let pain close me off, or do I let it open me to new understanding? Your answers will shift and deepen with time, just as stones change when held in different light. Jung taught that individuation, the journey to the true self, is not a straight road, but a spiral. You return to the same themes, the same questions again and again, each time with greater awareness, greater compassion. Your birthstone is an invitation to begin, but the journey is yours alone. The gem is not a guarantee. It is a companion. It reflects who you are and who you might become, if you have the courage to listen. In the end, these ancient stones do not change your fate. They simply shine a light on what was always waiting within you, hoping to be seen. As your journey with these stones continues, you realize their real power has little to do with luck or superstition. Each stone is a signpost on the inner landscape, a mark on the spiral of growing up, a reminder that true transformation always requires meeting yourself where you're most alive and most afraid. Jung understood that symbols like birthstones are not arbitrary decorations, but invitations to encounter parts of the psyche we might otherwise overlook. High summer brings us to ruby, the stone of July. Its fierce, blood-red glow is impossible to ignore, an ancient emblem of passion, courage, and the relentless force of life. Ruby is the warrior's stone, not only for those who fight in the outer world, but for everyone who has ever battled for their own soul, their dreams, their dignity, their truth. In Jungian terms, ruby calls forth the archetype of the warrior, the aspect within us that dares, that burns, that risks everything for something greater. If ruby is your stone, ask yourself, where does your fire go? What are you willing to fight for? Are you suppressing your passion, afraid of burning too hot? Or are you letting it fuel a life that matters to you? Every gift has its shadow. The same energy that can inspire can also destroy, if not directed with care. The warrior who refuses to feel will often turn anger inward, becoming harsh with themselves or others. Jung would warn, repressed passion doesn't disappear, it corrodes. But integrated passion becomes your motivation, your vitality, and your deepest healing. The challenge of ruby is to distinguish between burning for what's real and burning out for what isn't. It asks you to find your authentic battle, not to rage against the world, but to stand up for the truth that lives inside you, even when it's uncomfortable. Passion, when owned, can illuminate. When denied, it can consume. Next comes Peridot, the birthstone of August. Its bright, almost luminous green seems to glow with its own inner light, a symbol of renewal, hope, and positive change. Peridot is the stone of the seeker and the sage, the one who has survived the fire and now seeks healing, peace, and clarity. In many cultures, Peridot was worn to ward off darkness and call in abundance after hardship. If you feel drawn to Peridot, you're likely someone who seeks growth even after life storms. You carry an inner light, able to forgive and move forward, refusing to let the past define you. But as with every archetype, there is a shadow. Sometimes the pursuit of harmony can slip into avoidance, the desire for renewal into the denial of pain. Peridot people may prefer to stay on the surface, smoothing over rough edges, instead of digging deep into discomfort. Jung would say, there's no real growth without facing the darkness. True renewal is born only when you let the light in through the cracks of what has been broken. The message of Peridot is release. Let go of resentments, surrender what no longer serves you, make room for what's next. The risk is in thinking that positivity means never feeling pain. In truth, it's only by facing pain that we become resilient. Peridot teaches us to grow, to begin again, to allow new leaves to sprout where old wounds once were. Ruby and Peridot together illustrate the balance between fight and forgiveness, between the power to stand up and the wisdom to let go. Ruby is the battle cry, the force that says, I matter. Peridot is the healing breath that follows, whispering, you can start over. Neither is complete alone. Both are necessary for a soul that wants to live fully and not just survive. Ask yourself, what do you need more fire in your life? Where would a little more forgiveness set you free? Are you locked in battles that drain you, or ready to release what you've outgrown? The answers will change as you do. Jung's process of individuation is not linear. It's a spiral, always bringing you back to the same questions, but with new wisdom, each time a little deeper, a little truer. Holding these stones, you might feel a surge of courage or a longing for peace. You may discover that your birthstone's lesson is relevant now, or you may feel pulled toward a different gem for a particular season of life. There are no strict rules. The power of a symbol is in what it awakens in you. In the end, Ruby and Peridot remind you that all transformation requires both strength and surrender. Passion alone can burn you out. Forgiveness alone can leave you drifting. When you integrate both, you become capable of fierce action and deep renewal. This is the gift of summer stones, a reminder that your greatest breakthroughs are waiting not just in your victories, but in your willingness to grow beyond who you were. These ancient stones are less about destiny than about discovery. They are invitations to ask, to risk, to let go, to begin again, and in doing so, to become more fully yourself than you ever imagined. As summer fades into autumn and the days grow shorter, your journey with birthstones enters a new dimension, one that is quieter, more inward, yet infinitely powerful. This is the season of deeper intuition, where the external world contracts and your inner world calls out for attention. Carl Jung often wrote that the second half of life is when we are summoned not just to achieve, but to integrate, to listen to the voice beneath all striving, and to trust the mystery within. First, there is sapphire, the stone of September. Its blue is like the twilight sky, endless, dignified, sometimes cold but always mesmerizing. Sapphire is the gem of wisdom, truth, and inner vision. For thousands of years, kings and seekers alike prized it not just for beauty, but for the clarity it was said to bestow. In Jungian psychology, sapphire embodies the archetype of the oracle or the wise woman, the aspect of you that sees beyond appearances, who values insight over approval, who can hold complexity without losing center. If sapphire is your stone, you may be the observer, the one who notices what others miss, who asks the uncomfortable questions, who trusts her own counsel when everyone else is swept up by noise. The gift of sapphire is discernment, the ability to cut through illusion and to find stillness at the heart of confusion. But with this gift comes a challenge: isolation. The shadow of wisdom is loneliness. The risk is becoming so distant in your knowing that you forget how to connect. Jung warned that true wisdom is not withdrawal, but engagement. Seeing with clear eyes, yet still choosing to love, to participate, to risk misunderstanding. So, if you find yourself drawn to sapphire, ask, are you using your insight to open or to protect yourself? Do you speak your truth or hide behind silence? Are you willing to be seen as different, or do you water down your vision for the sake of belonging? The sapphire asks you to trust the voice within, to honor your own perceptions, but not to wall yourself off from the warmth of others. Then comes opal, the birthstone of October, a stone like no other, shifting and shimmering, impossible to define. Its play of colors suggests mystery, magic, transformation. Opal is the gem of intuition, creativity, and emotional alchemy. In myth, it was thought to contain the power of all other stones, a kaleidoscope of possibilities. In Jung's language, opal would be the archetype of the muse or the enchantress, the part of you that dances with uncertainty, that finds beauty in contradiction, that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Those who resonate with opal often live with one foot in this world and one in another. They are sensitive to atmosphere, to mood, to the shifting tides of feeling. Their power is the ability to adapt, to inspire, to reveal the hidden magic in daily life. But the shadow here is instability, the risk of becoming lost in illusion, of never settling, of running from commitment in search of ever-new sensations. Jung believed that intuition is a sacred gift, but must be anchored in reality to serve us. Otherwise, creative mind can become a maze with no exit. If opal is your stone, consider, are you embracing your full range of emotions, or are you overwhelmed by them? Do you honor your creative spark, or do you fear its unpredictability? Are you willing to trust your intuition, to act on inspiration even when the outcome is uncertain? The lesson of opal is to balance receptivity with focus, to channel your gifts in ways that enrich rather than scatter your energy. Sapphire and opal together symbolize the union of wisdom and wonder, insight and inspiration. Sapphire sees, opal feels. Sapphire judges, opal dreams. When these forces are brought together in you, the result is mature intuition, the ability to move through life with both clarity and imagination, both reason and magic. Jung taught that the psyche is most alive where opposites meet and reconcile. If you can hold the tension between vision and feeling, between truth and mystery, you step into a deeper kind of power, the feminine power of presence. For many women, this is the turning point, the realization that your intuition is not a weakness, but your greatest ally. The world often tells women to mistrust their inner knowing, to rely on external validation, to ignore the wisdom of their bodies and hearts. But sapphire and opal remind you that your way of perceiving the world is a gift, not just to you, but to everyone you touch. So ask yourself, where have you hidden your knowing? Where have you dismissed your own magic? Where have you longed to speak, to create, to shine, but silence yourself out of fear? The stones do not answer for you, but they prompt the questions that matter most. They invite you to claim your vision, to trust your intuition, and to let your inner light find its expression, no matter how unusual it may seem to others. In the end, wisdom and wonder are not separate roads. They are two faces of the same journey. When you integrate them, you become a woman who sees deeply and loves bravely, who can honor both her doubts and her dreams. This is the secret of autumn stones, not to choose between knowing and feeling, but to weave them together into something beautiful, rare, and entirely your own. As the cycle of the year nears its close and the darkness of winter begins to draw in, your journey through the language of birthstones arrives at its deepest layer, the stage of integration, where everything you've gathered, courage, wisdom, intuition, forgiveness, must now be made real in your daily life. Carl Jung often taught that symbols become most powerful not when we contemplate them in theory, but when we allow them to change us from within. The final stones of the year, topaz and turquoise, hold the keys to this transformation. Topaz, the stone of November, radiates with golden warmth, a subtle fire that can illuminate even the coldest day. For centuries, topaz was believed to bring abundance, clarity, and joy, dispelling the shadows that creep in during the dark months. In Jungian archetypes, topaz is the symbol of the alchemist, an inner figure who knows how to turn heaviness into gold, despair into hope, confusion into insight. This is not mere optimism, but the practiced art of transformation. If topaz is your stone, you likely have an inner light that persists through hardship. You are able to see possibilities where others see dead ends, to find meaning in adversity, and to inspire hope in those around you. Yet the shadow of topaz is denial, the risk of covering up pain with forced positivity or ignoring your own needs in the name of helping others. Jung would warn that real alchemy is never about skipping over difficulty, but about descending into it and bringing up what is true. The gift of topaz is not that it protects you from sorrow, but that it helps you discover joy within it, a deeper, more resilient happiness that does not depend on circumstances. Ask yourself, are you using your optimism as armor, or as fuel for genuine growth? Are you willing to face what's hard, or do you rush to the bright side before the lesson is learned? Topaz invites you to let your light shine, not by denying your struggles, but by transforming them, by finding the gold hidden in the shadows. Finally, as the year turns, we meet turquoise, the stone of December. Its tranquil blue-green recalls the vastness of the sky, the promise of new horizons, the healing calm of clear water. Turquoise is the traveler's stone, the symbol of protection, wisdom, and honest communication. It is often given to those about to embark on a journey, both literal and spiritual. In the language of Jung, turquoise is the archetype of the pilgrim or the guide, the part you always seeking, always learning, never content to remain in one place for too long. For those drawn to turquoise, life is an adventure in becoming. You find meaning in movement, renewal, and the quest for deeper understanding. Your gift is openness, the willingness to leave behind what's familiar in pursuit of what is true. But the shadow is restlessness, a tendency to avoid roots, to keep moving so you don't have to face what is unresolved. Jung believed that all seeking must eventually turn inward. The greatest journey is always the return to yourself. With turquoise, the question becomes, are you running toward your destiny or away from your fears? Are you seeking for the sake of growth, or are you afraid of standing still and facing your own reflection? The lesson of turquoise is to embrace the journey, but also to know when to rest, when to listen, when to be fully present where you are. As you reflect on topaz and turquoise, the golden light of transformation and the blue of the endless horizon. You see the final alchemy of the birthstones. The true power is not in any single stone, but in how they combine inside you. The strength to endure, the courage to change, the wisdom to see, the intuition to feel, the hope to continue seeking. Jung would say that individuation, the becoming of your true self, is not a destination, but an ever-deepening process of integration, of bringing together all that you are, light and shadow, past and possibility. So, what is the meaning of your birthstone now that you've walked this entire spiral? It is a mirror reflecting the story you are living and the story you are becoming. It is a prompt, a symbol, a companion for the journey. When you honor its message, you honor yourself, your strengths, your wounds, your longing, your potential. When you let it guide you, even for a moment, you are not just wearing a gem. You are living a myth, creating meaning, participating in the great human work of transformation. As winter settles in and the year draws to its quietest hours, remember that the cycle always turns. The darkness is not the end, but the pause before new light. The birthstone you were given at the start is with you still, but you are not the same. You have changed, deepened, gathered new wisdom. You have become a living alchemist, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary, making even your struggles into something shining and real. The secret, as Jung might say, is never in the stone itself, but in your willingness to let its story awaken your own. Every color, every glimmer, every legend is an invitation to heal, to love, to risk, to grow, to return home to the truest parts of yourself. That is the magic and the responsibility of being alive.